Hello everyone, welcome to Weekly Tech. Today in this lecture we are going to discuss about arrow functions and regular functions, the comparison between them and what are the caveats involved in both of them and which one to use where. So in year 6 a new method or new way of declaring a function was introduced, and that was the arrow functions, and it is different in quite a way. And the main difference is with associated with this keyword, and that we have discussed in detail the last time when we are discussing about this keyword in JavaScript. If you haven't watched that video, please check the I button that is coming on the right top corner. I insist you and request you to please go through that. So let me quickly declare a object, as I always do, my details, and there I'll include a name, and I'll include a function, and this time it won't be a normal function. Let's create a normal function like print name, and let's declare it in a normal way, the way we are doing it, and we just console.log hi this dot name. Let's create another function, and in this case we'll make it arrow function. Console.log hello sir, and I forgot to use the template literal. I think you guys have noticed it before. And now let me call the print name first. Okay, so as we have discussed in the last video, in case of a normal function call, this keyword will hold the value of the object which is calling that method or that function. We are calling the print name function, thus this print name function on this object. So this keyword, as we have discussed in the last video, this keyword will hold the values of the object which is calling it. So my detail object is calling it, so print name will hold my details value, that is nothing but the name, and it will print the name for you. Hi, this is working normally. Let me comment it out, and let me now call my details dot greet. What do you think, what will happen now? We have discussed it in the previous video, and just to give you a glimpse, that in case of an arrow function won't have its own this value. Arrow function will use its lexical scopes this value. What's the lexical scope in this case? Don't get confused with this block here. Okay, this is the arrow function, and don't get confused with this block here and these two curly braces. Okay, this is not a code block. This is just an object declaration and definition. For this is a normal arrow function declaration, and this is not surrounded by any other function. So in this case, the lexical scope will be the global scope. Again, don't get confused with these brackets. This is not a code block, this is normal object declaration. So this function will see its outside world, its lexical scope, as a global scope, because there is no other function surrounding it. So in this case, the value will be undefined or blank. Why? Because let's say, let me change the object name, first name, and in this case the value will be undefined. Okay, why? Because the reason we know it, because the arrow function will hold the lexical scope, and in this case the lexical scope is the window object. It's the global object. Let me console it for you also. It's the window object. And window object is not holding any variable name by first name. This is So declaring the arrow functions in this way, if you don't know it, and using this keyword inside the arrow functions without knowing the severity of using it, it will be too dangerous. Don't use it in this way. Why? Because if you use the where keyword, and we have discussed this in the previous videos also. If you haven't checked it, please click on the I button that is coming on the top right side, where we have compared the let const and where, and we have discussed each and every scenario related to production usages. Now if you declare our first name variable by using where keyword, first name equal to, let's say, John. Now this, and if we call this arrow function, as per the rule, the arrow function will hold this keywords value for the global scope, because the lexical scope, and lexical scope is the global scope. And we have discussed that if we declare a variable by using where keyword, then it will put the variable name to the global object, that's the window objects. Now if we run it, it will print hello sir John. This is weird and very dangerous to do, because we are interested in this name Uday Singh, but we are getting John, because if you check the window object by F, you can see the first name John defined over here. So it will be too dangerous to use it. And why I have renamed from name to first name is because I can see a name written over there in the window object which is blank. So that's why we are getting blank, and so that's why I used the first name. So to remove this bug, we should not use where, and we should always use let and const. So this is one of the reason of not using where. So the list is very long, but you should not, and you should consider using let and const, and you should stop using where now. So but still you will get an error. If you see, the error is hello sir undefined. So how to overcome this error? The answer is to use the normal function. Okay, so in this case it's just a normal function call, and the greet is getting called by my details, and in a normal function call this keyword will hold the value of the object which is calling it, and in our case we'll get the correct output. Okay, so now let's check another. So this is the difference between arrow function and the regular function. So it totally depends on you which one to use, but I suggest you, whenever you are using the arrow function, you should know what you are doing. Okay, now let's take a different scenario. Let's say let's create a variable, let's create a function inside print name, and let's call it let wish guest, and it won't do it, just do a console log of good evening, this dot name, and this dot first name, and I will simply call this wish function inside the print name function. Okay, so what do you think? If I call this print name, what will happen? Remember our rule. In case of a normal function call, this will hold the window object, this will hold the global object. In a normal function normal call, this keyword will hold the window object in non-strict mode, and if you are running it in the strict mode, then undefined. So if I use the strict mode, then this wish guest, let me run it. Okay, you get an error that let me change it to first name. This print name will work. Hi Uday Singh, this console.log of print name function is working, but when it's calling the wish guest, and it's trying to access the first name of something which is not defined, so it's giving you an error, this which is undefined. Why? Because we are in the strict mode, and it's just a normal function call, though it is inside a function call, but this is not, it's just a normal function. Now I know what's coming into your mind. What if this is an arrow function? In case of an arrow function, this won't hold its own value, but it will take the value from its lexical scope, and in this case the lexical scope of wish guessed is the print name function. So if we change it to arrow function, then my dear friends, you are thinking it right, you'll get the correct output. If I won't use the strict mode, so in case of non-strict mode, a normal function call will hold the window object, and in this case I will get the output as undefined. Why? Because this will not have a property naming first name, but this will be the window object in a non-strict mode, and in case of a strict mode it will be undefined, and so that's why it's giving an error that first name is not defined of undefined. Many of great JavaScript developers, many people thought and still thinks that this is a bug. It should not be like this. Okay, if I'm calling wish list as a function inside a function, then this should hold the lexical scope of the function which is inside it. In print name, it should hold the value of print name, and print name is getting called by my details. Should this, in this case, the wish list should also have, this keyword should also have access to my details properties. But hey, this is not the way the normal function works, and this is the rules. These are the protocols that once a function is called, then this value in a normal function call, in the non-strict mode it will hold the window object, and in strict mode it will be undefined. But in case of arrow functions, it will be the lexical scope, and you will get the correct output. So basically this is the main difference between of using an arrow function and a regular function. I hope I have cleared a lot of doubts and concepts till now in this lecture. Please let me know in the comment section if you have any doubts, any suggestions, or anything you want to discuss, and on any topic you want to make the video, I'll make it. And it totally depends on you how to use the arrow function, regular functions. That's all folks. Thanks a lot.